There's a lot of unanswered questions about the bridge scandal and its impact on Governor Christie in the 2016 presidential race. Joining us now from Miami, CNN political commentator and Democratic strategist Maria Cardona, and from Dallas, CNN political commentator Ben Ferguson. So Christie is adamantly denying that he knew anything about this plot to block traffic in Fort Lee, New Jersey. I'm going to ask you this first, Ben. How could such a hands-on guy not know what key staff members are doing? And if he didn't know, what does that say about how his staff does business?
Well, his staff members didn't want him to know they were doing this because it was a stupid move and a prank by some narcissistic staff members that have no power without them being close to the governor. And he runs a massive state. He's not going to be checking his staff's emails like they're his children. He trusts them for years. They did something stupid. He asked everybody if they were involved. They told him no. And as soon as he found out they lied to him, he did the responsible thing and fired him. I mean, Chris Christie is not an idiot. He's not willing to risk his entire political career over traffic is the main thing that I think is almost laughable over this. And the other thing is he's a lawmaker who also understands investigations because of his last job. If he lied yesterday, he knows he's going to get busted for it. That's why he had the long press conference. That's why he made it clear he wasn't involved, because he knows that he wasn't involved. I believe him on this one, and I think it'll come out in the end that he was telling the truth.
What do you think, Maria? You think it's enough what he did yesterday, and you think that's the truth, that he was just sort of ignorant?
Well, it's certainly not enough, Brianna. This, I think, opens the door for many additional questions that were not answered in yesterday's press conference. And it goes to what you mentioned about the culture of the kind of staff that he put together. Look, I've worked for many principals in my political career, and there's no question that the closest advisors to a principal absolutely reflect that principal's values. And so for somebody like the deputy chief of staff and others who are close to him, who he's now fired, to have done this, gone down this road, they have had to think at some point, this is something that the governor will support, this is something that the governor wants, or else they wouldn't have done it. And yes, I think it was stupid, but I think it indicates a culture and an aura that, frankly, is set a tone, if you will, that is set at the top. And that's very problematic for the governor.
And Ben, to that point, he fired his right-hand man, Bill Stepien. I mean, there is there is this sense.
I go back to look at what he's doing. Democrats don't care about the truth. They're trying to destroy Chris Christie. Let's be very honest about this.
Sure, and he's a front
don't
runner.
Care. Right, and they don't care if he's telling the truth.
But Ben, let me ask you this, because I hear your point there, and certainly if he's directly involved with it, it's not the same as if he created a culture, even though that's bad. Well, let me ask you about this, though. There is legal grounds for this. You can't just be sort of, willfully ignorance. In fact, it's called what I think willful blindness, where this could actually be a problem for Christie.
You're implying, but here's the thing. He wasn't willfully looking the other way. You could tell by his actions. Look at this politically. Does Chris Christie want to lose his right-hand man as important as everyone is now making out that these people around him were? Obviously, it would be bad for his future to get rid of people he trusts close to him unless they betrayed his trust. So if you look at his actions, he got rid of people he trusted. That's not good for him long-term politically. The traffic wasn't good for him. That's why I don't believe he knew about it. He had two bad apples. He fired those bad apples. It's going to have to replace those people with people he doesn't know as well. That's not good for him politically. He didn't want any of this around him, so he fired him. That's what we should.
And Maria, what do you say about that? Because you're talking about, I mean, he did get rid of a guy who some people said, if Chris Christie ran for president, this is the guy who would manage his campaign. That is a big move.
No question about that, Brianna, but he had no choice. At this moment, he had to do that, or it certainly would be the end a lot quicker than what he would want. But here's the problem. His other very close friend, David Wilstein, I believe is his name, pleaded the fifth yesterday when he was being questioned about this. And so it might very well be that he did that because he didn't want to incriminate himself, but pleading the fifth, and somebody who was very close to the governor, also raises a lot of questions. Ben may be absolutely right. The governor may have had absolutely nothing to do with this. But then it goes to the question of how competent is he and how credible is he when he says the buck stops here? And
Maria,
is it really fair for him to paint himself as the victim, which is what he did yesterday, as opposed to really finding out what happened there?
Maria, I wish you would have asked these same questions about the President of the United States of America on Benghazi, on the IRS scandal, on Fast and Furious, on healthcare.gov, on all of these issues. Susan Rice walking out and knowingly putting a lie out there on that issue with Benghazi.
About him. They have
no, they haven't.
They have been asked. Yes, of course they have.
We've read a number of emails and some, obviously, Ben, some questions do still persist, and there continue to be some hearings as well on things like Obamacare. But I think this, we're going to continue to see a lot of these questions that we're discussing right now on this story about.
And it's such a different situation.
About the bridge as well.
Let me say this.
Such a different situation than any of those that Ben mentioned.
There is no doubt in my mind, I want to make this very clear, that Chris Christie's career is not even close to over if he was telling the truth yesterday, which I totally believe he was. He is going to be just fine in the long term from this. This is not a career ender when people around you do something stupid and you fire them. That's being responsible, what we should want from politicians, and he did just that.
And that is the if
I agree.
that we will continue to search on.
That's right.
Maria Cardona.
If that's it, then it's possible that he comes back.
Oh, it's so nice to end on a note where they agree. We love that. Maria Cardona, Ben Ferguson, thanks so much, you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Brianna.
Well,